Hello, folks. I'm fielding any questions today rather than doing the pre-recorded message to you guys. Um, so ask any questions that you have about the final. Um, let's see, we have one viewer. Is that me? Let's have a look. Anybody in the chat? Oh, we got 4 viewers. Great. All right, so we can get down to it. So we're talking about the final capstone assignment. And I listed on our D2L site in the news section the requirements for the final capstone assignment. So it's going to be 2 large, ambitious value drawings, and we're having a critique for these 2 drawings on May the 7th at noon. The last day of class, I guess the last opportunity for you to give me any resubmits, you'll notice down here, is that following day, Friday the 8th at noon. So keep the final assignment on the front burner, but if you owe me any drawings, just keep in mind you need to get them into the Dropbox that I'm going to open up for resubmitted drawings next week. Okay, so let's get back into the final capstone assignment. If you picked up your 22 by 30 inch Bristol board at the beginning of the semester, that's what those sheets of paper are for. And this is what we're doing today. I mentioned, I told you guys all about the research sketches that you're going to have to give me for these 2 final capstone drawings. They're value-based sketches, just a postcard size. So show me that you're controlling your variables. Don't just show me your layout, the layout of your composition. You're also showing me in the sketch where your light is coming from. You need to control your lighting as much as you need to control your subject. That being said, the subject you can work with, it's anything observational, meaning anything that's in the same room as you in 3D in real life. So that obviously includes still lives, but that also includes portraits of live models, still lives, interior, exterior scenes, anything that you're drawing from direct observation. So that's your choice of subject. And they don't have to be the same 2 times. You can do a portrait and a still life, or a landscape and a drawing of your room maybe. But the media is also, you have some options there too. Any of the value-based techniques that we did this semester. So there's graphite, compressed charcoal, the reductive charcoal, and if you have any kind of brown paper, you can mix white and black charcoal on white paper, and it's a lot more painterly of a process that you can push and pull with. You can push values darker with the black charcoal and then bring them back up lighter with the chalk. If you want to try that, be my guest. And then ink wash. Now, we had some questions about color media last time. Again, if you want to take on a new color media for this final piece, you can only do that with one of the 2 drawings. and that's any dry color media like pastel or colored pencil. Um, and the only wet color media I'm going to allow is watercolor, because it's enough like ink wash that the similarity is there. Let's see, any questions yet? Howdy, howdy, howdy. All right. So make sure that you get them in the on-time Dropbox. There will only be one Dropbox for the final. That's going to be the on-time Dropbox, because we're not going to have any more classes, any more class meetings after the final critique. So that's the final finish line. If you don't make the finish line, you can, if you miss the final critique, you can slip your final into the resubmit folder. Make sure you label, by the way, each picture that you drop into the resubmit folder with the assignment, right? Like charcoal drawing, or a compressed charcoal drawing, or a reductive charcoal drawing, whatever the assignment was, so that I'll know which drawing you're trying to either improve the grade on or make up if you haven't done it yet. Okay, great. So there's all the criteria there. Let's look at some examples. Let's see, documents, student work, drawing. All right, so let's have a look at these. Now, I can't stress enough, and all yous pay attention right now, value drawing. Value drawing? Value drawing. 2 value drawings. Not contour line drawings. Again, these are observational exercises. This is your final examination of your eyeballs. So show me how objective your vision has become over the course of this semester by drawing the best observational value drawings you've done all semester. This one's a nice composition, utilizing placement and leading lines to guide our eyes around the scene. So composition is first and foremost. So the layout of this example is really powerful for framing devices and for leading eyes that keep your eyes moving around. Even these bottles become arrows pointing up, kind of creating a path through these rungs back to our major thoroughfare up there. Kind of puny. Can we get you to get bigger? No? Okay. Look how gradient and rich the lights and shadows are in this picture. Again, notice the nice terminator lines, these crescent-shaped edges here. Remember, those are the edges we're concerned with. We're not drawing outlines. You don't see any outlines on the edge of this white dish. The edge is created by a sharp contrast between the white of the dish and the gray of the drape in the background. Now, ambition is key. These are your final capstone drawings, so the composition should be not just tightly composed, but also ambitious in scale. You don't want to give me a picture of a single apple. That's lame. This is your time to shine and show off what you've learned. So this seemingly simple still life still has some really intricate parts to it, like the reflection here. Um, the the groupings are really well laid out. Notice the artist is letting negative space leach in between the positive objects. Think of your composition as a map. There's going to be continents and there's going to be islands. But you don't want to let your oceans dominate, so you need to chop up your oceans. All right, here's another good example of an ambitious observational drawing just through sheer quantity of subject matter. So think maximalistically with these compositions. Less will not be more in these finals. More is more. Richer values, more complex compositions, more dynamism across the board. This is really interesting. Pick subjects that interest you. You know, if bottles are boring, I don't know. If you like manga mechs, if you have a bunch of models of mechs, now's your time to investigate what you really care about. So that's the only requirement. It has to be observational. But if we're talking about people or inanimate objects or plants, that was a good composition, I thought. But that's a mighty puny photo, so sorry about that. But again, just in sheer quantity. In fact, if you find a subject that is way bigger than you plan on dealing with, and you crop that subject down, you'll get a more dynamic composition because you'll have more options of how to lay out your islands. And you know, you'll have some options. You won't be limited by the still life. You'll be composing with the viewfinder. Here's another great example. Now, if we were to count how many objects are in the scene, you might say, you know, the plate of baguettes or whatever that is, biscuits, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 objects, which may not seem like a lot, but notice the ambition is in the hyper focus on that reflection and the careful observation of the patterns. So go big or go home with these final drawings. And again, it doesn't have. We saw all still lifes thus far. It doesn't have to be a still life. I suppose you could argue this is a still life. It's just a really wide angle still life. But if you want to draw a space rather than a collection of stuff, be my guest. And of course, the natural equivalent is a landscape. If you do a landscape, all that I ask is that you try a different medium other than ink wash. No ink wash landscapes. Let's investigate it through a different media. Graphite is really good for landscapes because you get really, I think we saw in Abby's, you remember Abby's drawing from last time? The really tight textures making up the natural texture, the really tight drawn, how would you say that? Formal textures, abstract textures that were simulating those natural textures. Here's another great example of that kind of trick. Again, remember it's all in the lights and shadows where the leaves are densest, where the leaves are catching light planes. That's what matters, the shape of the light planes and shadow planes and the terminators in between. Okay, so we did have some curiosity about color. Now, the first thing you need to make sure of going into a color drawing is that you do not forget about value. Notice how rich the value scheme of this drawing is. We have these rich black values, we have all these really dark values related to black, and then we have this nice full range of light values as well. So that's the first thing I want you to remember if you remember anything about color. If you're willing to take on a second rule, don't make your colors purely local, right? Notice this apple, the local color is green, but the artist uses, you see some purple in there, you see some blue in there, you see some yellow being employed. We even see some reds and oranges along the fringe here. And a black bottle, or whatever dark color this bottle is, set that local color aside and really scrutinize, dissect the intricacies of that color. In other words, amplify the different temperatures of the color you're looking at and kind of embellish those different temperatures into different hues, like this magenta next to that cyan. Here's another good example. This pot here was probably just a white pot, right? But the artist is scrutinizing all the different absorbed colors in the white and really intensifying, amplifying their hue. You see the reflections off this bottle are just as rich as the bottle itself. So try and pack in as many different pure hues into one object as possible. And if you take on colored pencil, that's why I'm pulling up this example and that example as well. These are pretty kind of, I wouldn't call these very ambitious compositions. The reflections are definitely nice. I take that back about this one. The reflections are pretty intricate. That's a pretty ambitious view. Maybe I might subtract a little of the excess negative space. But this one, that's just a plain Jane still life of 5 objects. But the reason I'm pulling it up is because it is a colored pencil drawing. First thing to note about colored pencil drawings is that they take forever and a day. Second thing is keeping up with the last message. You want to break up your local color. Notice this green bottle. We notice shades of orange in there. Some very bluish greens. Notice these kind of off-white, greenish or yellowish grapes. You can spot vague traces of purple in. So perhaps especially think in complementary terms. Take this brown wine glass. One rule of thumb to avoid getting a muddy color drawing is to not use any browns or grays. Mix your browns through primaries or secondaries, but don't resort to a pre-mixed brown color. Notice she doesn't use a brown color here. She's using greens layered on top of reds, layered on top of yellows. In fact, a good way to begin a colored pencil drawing is to begin with only primary colors and try and get your local colors just through different densities of these primaries on top of each other. The process with colored pencil is basically exactly the same as watercolor, except it's a dry media. Because it's so thin and translucent, you can layer a lot of hues on top of each other and get your neutral tones through layering, not through pulling out a brown colored pencil. Forget you own any brown colored pencils, any grays. Don't ever use a black colored pencil. Get your blacks from layering blues over greens over purples over deep reds. So if you challenge yourself to begin with only primaries and then to get more saturated colors after that first primary pass, you might bring in some secondaries like the green over the bottle here, or the purple over the berries there. Let's see, any questions? Okay, no questions so far. That's really all I wanted to prep you guys with. I'm going to be checking my email regularly today. So send me your sketches. That's what I want to see today. I want to see it, at least one sketch of one of your capstone drawings. If you have them both sketched out, more power to you. That means you have multiple days to work with. Now, manage your time. This is when everything's due. This is today. All right? Hammer out your sketches if you haven't done that already. Do it now during class. Send them to me for approval and move on so that you have at least a whole week to work on these two major drawings. So get the lead out if you haven't done so yet. Let me stall a little bit so you folks can maybe think of questions you'd like to ask. Maybe think of some questions. All right. No questions? Okay. Well, good luck to you folks. You can also text me your images if you'd rather do that. And I can't wait to see what you show me. Have a good week. And we'll be doing the same thing. Same thing as today. On Thursday, I'll be reviewing your images. You can even send me your finished drawings in progress. And without any questions, all right. Bye-bye. Have a good week.